Now we can start.
Okay, sir. Namaste and good evening, everyone. I am Shubhangi Rajavu Amle, research student of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Marathwada University, Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar, Maharashtra. On the behalf of Indian Research Scholars Association, I welcome to all of you. This is a platform whose motive is to exchange creative, constructive, promotional, and progressive dialogue with research scholars across India and neighbor countries. The association has been organizing lectures by experts from across the country on various topics. Similarly, today our guest speaker is Professor Joyati Bhattacharya ma'am from Department of Political Science, and ma'am is also Dean of School of Social Sciences, Assam Central University, Silchar, Assam. And today's lecture topic is ethics in research and why is it important. Organizing committee of today's lecture, coordinator Vikash Kumar sir from Indira Gandhi National Tribal University, Amarkantak, then convener Dheeresh Tiwari sir from JNU, Co-Convenor Krishna Mohan Upadhyay from BHU, Organizing Secretary Papi Halder ma'am from Lucknow University, and all participants from all over India. Now, I would like to invite Vikash Kumar sir for welcome speech. Vikash Kumar sir.
Okay, thank you so much, Subhangi madam. First of all, I would like to thanks and welcome to the uh, today's our eminent speaker, Professor Jyoti Bhattacharya madam. When I have sent the invitation uh, to the ma'am, so ma'am has accepted our invitation and also suggested us a very contemporary and relevant topic uh, to all of us. Today's lecture is very important, and today's lecture has also vital role for the research because in present time we can see in the thesis in the research paper the researcher and the scholars have followed lack of the ethics in their research. So for this reason, the ethics in the research and why it's important, its theme is so much important to all the research scholars. So I welcome again to the Professor Joyati Bhattacharya madam. I would like to welcome to Subhangi Amle madam, today's anchor of this uh, uh, lecture series. I would like to welcome the executive committee member of the Mr. Aswini Kumar and organizing co-convenor of this lecture series, Krishna Mohan Upadhyay, convener Dheeresh, and organizing secretary Papi Halder. I would like to welcome also to all the participants who all have joined from the various institutions. Uh, so on the behalf of me and on the behalf of the Indian Research Scholars Association, I would like to welcome again to all of you on the behalf of me and on the behalf of the Indian Research Scholars Association. So for the further proceeding, I want to invite again to the Subhangi. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to invite Naina Prasad ma'am for giving brief introduction of our guest. Naina Prasad ma'am.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद शुभांगी जी। मैं नैना प्रसाद महात्मा गांधी अंतर्राष्ट्रीय हिंदी विश्वविद्यालय के हिंदी साहित्य विभाग से पीएचडी कर रही हूँ। मैं प्रोफेसर जोयाति भट्टाचार्य मैम का इस कार्यक्रम में हार्दिक स्वागत एवं अभिनंदन करती हूँ। मैम, आप पॉलिटिकल साइंस विभाग से वर्तमान में असम विश्वविद्यालय में प्रोफेसर के पद पर अध्यापन का कार्य कर रही हैं। और मैं ये बता दूं कि मैम, आपने एमए 2000 एमए पॉलिटिकल साइंस से 1993 ईस्वी में गुवाहाटी विश्वविद्यालय से अपनी पूरी की है। पीएचडी पॉलिटिकल सोशियोलॉजी से असम विश्वविद्यालय से की है। आपको अन्य विषयों में भी बेहद रुचि रही है, जैसे इंटरनेशनल पॉलिटिक्स, वुमेन स्टडी, इलेक्ट्रल पॉलिटिक्स और रिसर्च मेथोलॉजी में। मैम, आपके बहुत से पुस्तक और आलेख भी प्रकाशित हुए हैं, जिनमें से इंडियन जर्नल ऑफ पॉलिटिकल साइंस, वर्ल्ड फोकस इत्यादि पुस्तकें भी छपी हैं। आपके निर्देशन में बहुत से शोधार्थी एमफिल और पीएचडी में भी एनरोलमेंट हुए हैं। मैम, मैं आपका इस कार्यक्रम में हार्दिक स्वागत एवं अभिनंदन करती हूँ और आपको आमंत्रित करती हूँ आज के व्याख्यान के लिए। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you, ma'am. Now I request Professor Joyati Bhattacharya ma'am for delivering the lecture. Please, ma'am. Ma'am, you are mute. Please unmute yourself.
So at the outset, I extend my very sincere thanks to the Indian Research Scholars Association for having me as the speaker. And in particular, I am thankful to Mr. Vikash Kumar, because he is the man who contacted me. Perhaps at the time this forum was initiated. And I am also thankful to the other office bearers and the participants here today. So as has been outlined, that the topic of my research is ethics in research and why it is important. You see, that is when we say that is ethics in research, it means a bit different something from what we understand by ethics in individual life. That is, suppose in individual life, when we refer to the question of ethics, it generally refers to certain kind of morality. That is where you would remain honest, where you would not speak lie, where you would not actually ditch anyone. You would be sincere to your public responsibility as well as to your individual responsibility. Some such things actually is generally being perceived as ethics in individual life. But with reference to research, am I audible to all? Here actually it is raining very much today.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So here actually it is raining very much today. So that's why maybe there may be some network issue. So ethics in research, when we speak of ethics in research, it generally refers to a kind of intellectual honesty. Intellectual honesty means, that is, if as a researcher you are not adhering to certain code of conduct, you are not adhering to certain principles, then you will be unable to achieve the goal that you are looking for. You will be unable to achieve the knowledge that you are supposed to gather at the end of your research journey. So, and this code of conduct or the principles that has actually been developed from the experiences, from the difficulties, from the mistakes that have been committed by researchers in the past. So when we actually speak of ethics in research, we generally refer to certain principles, certain activities. It refers to a code of conduct that is required to be adhered by the researchers in the course of his or her research journey. So I am just very briefly referring to certain principles, certain facts that a researcher is expected to take note of while one is in a research venture or while one has initiated the task of doing research. Now, research, one thing that I often tell my students is this, that a PhD is not a research only. A PhD is turns into a research when you have got enrolled in PhD and you are in serious quest of gathering some knowledge. You are in serious quest to understand a problem, to unveil some facts. And other than this, that if you are simply following certain procedure with the purpose of having the degree, then actually it may not actually help you to understand the need for every aspect that is required to be adhered in the course of doing a good research. Now, depending on the subject matter, depending on the discipline and the nature of research, the code of conduct may little vary, but ultimately all researchers are expected to follow certain guidelines. Now, what does this guideline mean? What are the things that a researcher is expected to do in the process of doing research? So the first important thing is, with regard to research, is you need to understand the purpose of the research. What is the purpose of a research? Can anyone answer? Can anyone from here would like to respond?
So, ma'am, actually, to make a society or the environment some better off in condition.
Okay, okay, thank you. Anyone else?
To get new knowledge.
Yeah. So actually, you see, that is the purpose of research. Is actually the researcher is not concerned initially about the society. A researcher is concerned about his research, about his intellectual pursuit. So eventually you are benefiting the society, but as a researcher, your sole focus on understanding a problem. So the purpose of research basically is to gather knowledge and to disseminate it to the extent it is possible. That is by making publications, by delivering lectures, by organizing seminars, etc. So if you understand that the purpose of your research with clarity, that the purpose of your research is actually to contribute to the world of knowledge, is to gather knowledge and then to subsequently disseminate it by making your reports, by making your PhD dissertation public, by writing books, writing articles, by delivering lectures, then actually, eventually, you will be able to contribute to the world of knowledge. Now, if some unnecessary restriction is being put on the researcher from disseminating the information, from sharing the information, then it amounts to unethical standard, because your institution is also supposed to help you to actually organize seminar, lectures, etc., so that the inputs that is gathered from the research work is being disseminated to the world, to the society, and to the world at large in a much better, in a much systematic and scientific manner. So this is what is the first thing that a researcher needs to understand, to the first step in the process of being ethical in the process in doing a research work. The second important thing, that a researcher has the accountability of the researcher. The researcher, like anyone else, is accountable. And you know that in case there is not a very strict monitoring mechanism, you may let loose. You may eventually, that's why I'm saying that to what extent you are committed to the purpose of your study, to what extent you are committed, that is what is most important. Because every time on every occasion, the monitoring mechanism may not be as strict as it is expected to be. But if it is not so, and if you let loose, that is your research work, if you go casual about your research work, then eventually you will not be able to make any substantial contribution by doing your research. So accountability in the sense of that is throughout the process of doing research. A research is actually generally in India, in our country, doing PhD is not being conceived as a very difficult task. There are a number of reasons for that, which I am not getting into. But actually, it is the highest academic degree that you are getting. And you will be able to understand that how difficult it is. That is, if you ask that we live in a society which is mired with so many problems, but when a scholar comes to you, if you ask the scholar that what is the problem that you are on which you are intending to do your research, the scholar generally cannot, in most cases, cannot respond, and generally is not found to have a precision about the problem. So the identification, the very identification of the problem, the first step in doing the research, the very identification of the problem becomes a very difficult task. So it's a whole process. So where you will first do your groundwork quite sincerely, and literature review to identify the problem and to see that whether the problem is viable enough to complete and conduct the study and complete it successfully. Secondly, you will be adhering to the statistical tools that fits the methodology of your research. You will show with patience and objectivity, you will collect your data and interpret it. And you will also maintain caution while you are reporting your data. So this whole lot of things, actually doing this whole lot of things actually represent the accountability of the researcher. So a researcher who is accountable, as I told you, that is, it's not that every time one is monitoring your research. Every time there may not be a strong monitoring mechanism to look after you, that whether you are fulfilling every step or not. So you are actually your guardian. It is you who is accountable to you, who should be accountable to yourself and should remain uh, honest honest and committed at every step of doing research. That is, since the selection of the problem to actually reporting of your data. So if you come and you say, that is often as a teacher, I find that is the students come and students say, that is, if I tell them, okay, you do a research on Pradhan Mantri's Awas Yojana, the impact of Pradhan Mantri, okay, ma'am, they say. It means what? That actually they lack the clarity. It is you who should have some idea, you who should have some quest to know some problem. So unless you have this, then you may actually be able to accomplish a PhD degree and get a PhD degree, but you will not be able to actually to establish yourself as an academician of standing or to contribute substantially to the area in which you have conducted your study. So the accountability means that you to select a problem, you will do the necessary groundwork and you will do the literature. That any problem is not worth of doing research because it may not be viable enough. You may not actually get information. Suppose if you start doing work on the rise and the fall of alpha in Assam, then one may get faced with some serious problems of getting primary the inputs, that is from the respondents, because the respondents are people who are former terrorists, etc. So they may not be able to disclose the information, or for some reasons they may not like to actually share or for some other reasons also, not to get stigmatized in the society or so, they may not like to share the data. So this is from selecting the problem, then actually you need to have have a clear idea about methodology, about the statistical tools that you have to use to select a proper methodology, because you know that methodology is something that is actually the researcher best understands. It is not anyone else but the researcher himself or herself who can only say that what should be the methodology of the study. Yes, you should have the idea of various methodology that may suit your research, that are generally being considered to be the general standard methodologies that are being used in research. But in every research there needs something is required to be superimposed by the researcher to actually get the data and to have and to do a quality research. And then actually the collection of data is actually a very difficult process. You cannot collect data. You need to be very objective. And also you have to be very patient to collect your information from various from your respondents. And the equal amount of caution and equal amount of sincerity and hard work you need to devote while you are interpreting the data and you are reporting and preparing your report. Then only, so this accountability at different stages of research actually makes a research product, the research outcome, an ethical one and worthy to consider it as a contribution to the world of knowledge. Then the third important thing is objectivity. Objectivity, you see, that is must be all of you have heard about the Foucault's theory of wheel of ignorance. Anyone has heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So what
Wheel
does
of
this
ignorance
theory say?
given by John Rawls.
Huh?
Wheel of ignorance is theory of justice given by John Rawls, using the term wheel of ignorance.
Chandals? Okay, just the
I
wheel of
could not
ignorance.
understand.
Actually, Krishna Mohan sir, madam is asking about that. What is the veil of ignorance? What
No,
the
Okay,
I'm
concept
not
of
okay.
veil of
asking.
ignorance?
I'm just saying that have you heard or not? If you have heard, just by the way, so because objectivity, because you see that all of us are right now when I am delivering this lecture, a lot of things are playing at the back of my mind that I am trying to understand the nature of the audience. Because even unconsciously, because it would, that what kind of audience I am interacting, that would also impact the way I deliver the lecture. So you know that none of us is actually at any point of time is free of bias. We have a lot of beliefs, we have a lot of values, we have multiple identities. I am a woman, I am a Brahmin, I am a Hindu, I am a so and so. So a lot of things actually are constantly actually, that is determining your orientation at every stage, everything that you are doing, knowingly or unknowingly. That's why I refer to the theory of wheel of ignorance given by Foucault. In this theory, he says that the concept of justice is a misnomer. The ideal form, the ideally to what we understand by justice, ideally, to get it, you have to make the people who actually formulate the policies, you have to put them under the wheel of ignorance. Wheel of ignorance means they must be ignorant about their identity, that whether they belong to which caste, they belong to which religion, they belong to which gender, they belong to which class, they belong to what is their place of residence, when they will be ignorant of everything and they will be put against under a curtain where they have no knowledge about anything about their own identity, then only they will be able to formulate the policies which will establish real justice in the society. So none of us, otherwise, suppose I am dean. Currently, I am Dean of the School of Social Science. So, if I am being inducted in a committee for formulating the guidelines of the PhD scholars, I will try to formulate the policies in a manner so that the more powers go to the Dean than to the HODs. Had I been HOD, I would have tried to do just the reverse. Am I clear? So, the same amount of, the same lack of objectivity, the influence of our values, our culture, our caste, our multiple identities, etc., play out at the back of our mind as a researcher also. I'm just giving you an example. Suppose you belong to a very upper caste, the most upper caste cadre of the society, and you are investigating on the atrocities that the Dalits have faced at the hands of the upper caste. Suppose that is your area of study. Now, if for any reason you are by in any way, if you are biased you get biased about your own caste identity, then this will influence your research. This will influence your research, and vice versa. When a Dalit is, suppose, a scholar of mine, that she also has very good distinguished publications, etc. She conducted a study and it has got reported in a very esteemed journal. I am not naming. And she belongs to a particular caste. And she conducted the study and reported it in a very good journal. But good journal, she made quite a good study. And then on similar area, I also have conducted a study and I also have reported it to a very good journal, to an esteemed journal. And at that time, I have found that quite a great amount of data, a significant amount of data, she actually being a little bit, she maneuvered to actually suit the broad narrative that she has in her mind. So you see, that's why I'm saying that objectivity is very, so you are misleading the people. This will create more division in the society, etc. So you have to remain very objective. You have to stand above your own personal values, beliefs, your identities to be a good researcher. Because so many different issues we do. If you are doing research on a topic which is not quite sensitive in nature, then it is okay. But if you are, for any reason, you are doing research on a topic which is otherwise sensitive in nature, then you have to be very cautious so that your personal values, beliefs, etc. do not in any way influence your research work. Am I clear? Then the next is the respect for intellectual property. This is what is the most important, you can say, that is the criterion. This is what is the most important yardstick of a very good researcher. That is, to what extent you respect the intellectual help that you take from different people in the course of your research, in the course of completion of your research. Any help that you are taking from someone else, maybe in the form of an information, maybe in the form of a text, maybe in the form you are taking the concept of somebody, not you are taking text or anything, you are taking some figures, statistical figures, you are taking some photographs or anything from anybody, it is expected that you will acknowledge it appropriately in your research work, that the due credit will be given to the person who is the originator or who is the original author from whom you have taken the information. If you don't do it, then it amounts to an extremely unethical conduct, and it is actually the most palpable and most uh, commonly found unethical conduct in research, which is called plagiarism. I think all of you have heard. And there are a lot of restrictions being imposed to control plagiarism, but yet it persists in different way. And now with the introduction of this AI, etc., it has become a very, that a very difficult problem, a matter of serious concern, how to actually maintain the sanctity of good research. Then the next important criteria of doing a good research is integrity. Integrity means it is actually a similar kind of thing. That integrity is this, that is, what do we understand by that is, if today, suppose I was supposed to join the lecture at 4 o'clock, and sharp at, I had been to university today, and I returned at a time, so that sharp at 4 o'clock I can join the program. If I would not have, and today it is also raining very heavily here, if for any reason I would not have joined, or I would have made you sit for long, then what you would have thought of me, that this lady lacks integrity. She committed to deliver the lecture. We have taken so much pain to actually prepare the flyer, to distribute it, to coordinate among people, and then she did not turn up. So integrity means to live up to the expectation, because research is not a single venture. When you are doing a research, and most importantly, when you are doing a good research, you are bound to involve. You are bound to involve other people. So it is not a singular adventure or endeavor. So integrity means that you live up to the expectations of others who get involved with your research. So if you are expected to maintain the confidentiality of the subjects or the respondents who have joined your research, you are expected to live up to the deadline that is being given by the funding agency or the institute, and most importantly, you are not supposed to either falsify or fabricate your research. The moment you are falsifying or fabricating your data, your research does not remain to be of any use. Instead, you can, if you are a person who can actually manipulate data and write quite good, then instead you can mislead the people. Your research work can mislead the people. So fabrication means, suppose you have gone to a you suppose I am a resident of Silchar, which is in Kachar district, the headquarter of Kachar district in Assam. So if I have undertaken a study to see, that is, the socio-economic status of Dalits and upper castes, and if I find that in my study, if I find that the Dalits are socio-economically advanced than the upper caste, then what I may do, because it is not fitting with the broad narrative. The broad narrative is this, that the Dalits are backward, and there are some बहुत पिछला हुआ Dalits भी है. So what I may do, suppose I have found that 52% of Dalits are socio-economically advanced and 48% upper castes are socio-economically advanced. So what can I do? Then I can interchange the data. I can report that 52% Dalits are, upper castes are advanced, and 48% Dalits are advanced, although I have found the reverse data. It is called fabricating. Why I am fabricating the data? I am fabricating the data so that actually people understand so that I need not have to actually give some more time. I need not have to invest some more energy and insight, devote more insight to understand that why it is so that here the data is coming which contradicts the broad narrative or the understanding about this particular phenomenon. To avoid my own work, I just to understand that why I just fabricate the data to suit the broad narrative and report it, and there does not come any problem. But if I would have actually gone into the deep to understand that why it is that the data here has contradicted the broad narrative or understanding about this particular phenomenon, then perhaps I would have come up with a much better work and with some such observations which would have actually at least would have helped the policymakers or at least the academicians to actually evolve a better insight and actually to think in a different way about the subject matter. So this is so this, and not to falsify, and also you are not, suppose one famous case is there, maybe any one of you know Piltdown Man case. Does anyone here know about Piltdown Man case? It is actually research in archaeology which was conducted in 1912. There was going on a lot of researches to actually identify the missing link between the man and the ape. All of us have evolved from apes. That I think all of you know. That we have become human beings, but a lot of apes have still remained. So the scientists have been investigating for long that what is that missing link that has made a group of ape to transform into human beings. And in 1912, there was a discovery where a skeleton was discovered in Central Africa, and that skeleton was being considered as a missing link between the man and the ape. 40 years later, it is known as the infamous Piltdown Man study. 40 years later, the scientists could discover that it is actually a fraud done by a scientist. He actually attached the skeleton, two skeletons, one from Asia and another from Africa, to mislead the scientific world. And for 40 years, the scientists kept on thinking that it is the skeleton of the missing link between, which can establish the missing link between the evolution of ape to man. And 40 years, so it is a fabrication, the worst example of fabrication of that data, because for 40 years, the scientific world was being misled, and their direction was being changed. Those who were working on the issue of human evolution. So this is what is called fabrication. So under integrity means that you would not either fabricate or falsify your data. You would not actually violate the confidentiality that you have promised to your subject or respondents. You will be living up to utilize your fund. Often it happens that is the fund is not being utilized the way actually it is being expected by the funding agency. So such things, if such things are being avoided, then a researcher can live up to the integrity of doing a good research. Then actually, protection, data protection. Data protection means what? That is when you are doing your research, because you being most of you happen to be, I think, the students of social science. So in social science, generally, in most cases, we are doing research on areas which are not quite sensitive always. But in those who are doing researches in suppose biotechnology, in microbiology, in medical science, in physics, in nuclear physics, in astrophysics, they are doing research. Many a time they are doing research on some very sensitive issues on which the outcome of their research may actually affect the society and the mankind in a very significant way. So data protection means that is when you are collecting data, suppose you are going those election studies that are being conducted, where the people confide on you to give information about their party choice, about their candidate choice, etc. Now, as a researcher, you collect this information, and then if you divulge to a political party that the people of this area has actually have inclination to not to you but to the other political party, and you maybe there may be some pressure on you also to actually divulge this information. And if you divulge the information, then eventually it may have very, that very negative effect on the research, and it is something highly unexpected of a researcher. So data protection means that you will maintain the confidentiality of the data, and under no circumstances uh, at the lure of anything by any organization, by the patrons, by the funding agency, by the institution, you will divulge the confidentiality of the data that you have collected for your study. And on many occasions, there is actually huge pressure on the moment you are doing research on a sensitive issue. You will be there will be a lot of eyes on you, and there will be a lot of people to actually lure you to give the necessary information. So I have given you one example about these election studies. So it is the responsibility of the researcher to see that the data is well protected and in the process of your study. Then actually you see that is then comes the question of comfort of the subjects, which used to be often neglected earlier, which used to get often neglected in research earlier. And as a result of this, nowadays, this comfort of the subjects is a very significant constituent of doing an ethical research. What does the comfort of the subjects mean? The comfort of the subjects mean that is in social science research or in various clinical experiments, in doing medical experiments, psychological experiments, in psychological researches, a lot of people participate. You have to take information from a whole lot of respondents whom you select as a sample. Now, in the process of collecting the responses from the respondents, you have to be cautious so that the sensitivity or any harm is not reached out to the respondent. Suppose I'm giving you an example. Suppose a researcher in social science is doing his or her research on, on income inequality. Now, if you go to a person, to your respondent, and if you ask what is your monthly income, then because he or she is not an Elon Musk or Mukesh Ambani, so they may not like the question. They may be daily breadwinner, they may be very low middle class people. So because in your respondent, a lot of category of people will be there. So naturally, they will not consider it as quite a pleasant question. But you need this information as a researcher, isn't it? That is, what is the monthly income of the person? So you can put the question in a different manner. Instead of being asking the question directly, which may actually hurt the sensitivity of the sentiment of the person concerned, you may ask him about to give information about how much of the money his family spends in grocery in a month, how much of money does his family spend in travel, in medical expenditure, how much of money his family spend in luxury, suppose going to restaurant, the movies, etc., and how much money is being saved, tentatively saved by your family. from that you can make out that what can be the income of that person. So suppose if I ask somebody, whom did you vote? Will he answer? As a researcher, if I go, I am to know that is the preferences of youth for the Bharatiya Janata Party. Now, if I go among the youths and if I ask that whom did you vote or whom you are going to vote in 2024 Lok Sabha election, how many people will respond? Anyone is there? People are there, or generally in online discussion, people leave
Yes,
also.
ma'am. We all are there. We are
Oh,
No, ma'am,
all
we
are
are.
here.
okay. So actually, no, this is actually a, that communication gap of some such kind. That sometimes you get during the COVID time when the classes were made everyday classes. Then sometimes it used to be little bit like frustrating. And so that is, so you cannot ask somebody that whom did you vote, whom do you prefer as a candidate. You cannot ask them. So what you can do, that is you can ask somebody. I can ask somebody that do you think that after the Narendra Modi has come to power, there has been, because that Assam has been suffering from economic backwardness for long. So do you think that there has been a qualitative change in infrastructure in the development of Assam after Narendra Modi has come to power in 2014? If after asking that, if that man starts telling, yes, you see that the Mahashanak has been constructed, these trains, the Gaurav Bharat has started, Vande Bharat has started, this broad gauge, then you can automatically make out that this man will vote for BJP. So this is another way to actually, if you ask somebody about Rahul Gandhi's Nyay Yatra, and if you start saying that he has reinvented himself, he is doing a great deal of work, he is reaching out to people, today or tomorrow his hard work will surely yield dividend, then he will vote for Congress. So you can make out this. So when actually the comfort of the subject means that you need to be conscious. Suppose you need to be conscious about the fact that the sensitivity of the respondent is not hard. If sensitivity of the respondent gets hard, then actually the people do not give information. I have the personal experience of collecting data from people for various studies, and I have seen that when people understand that you are one of them, then actually they give you some more information, because ultimately all research work is to a certain extent qualitative, to a great extent qualitative in nature. In quantitative responses actually may not help you to actually get to the bottom of the problem until and unless you evolve some qualitative data by dint of your own personality, by dint of your own hard work, patience, etc. And this, while in social science research, the question of sensitivity is maybe to take care of the questions you pose, how you pose to the respondent. In clinical researches, it is a far greater risk. Suppose in clinical researches, earlier the people used to had been taken randomly. But now, actually, in any medical researches, during COVID vaccination, invention of the COVID vaccination also, you have seen that there was reporting that the people from Africa were being mistreated. Many people from small African countries, underdeveloped African countries, because there was hurry to invent the vaccination. So how can you invent when you are in hurry to invent something? So then you cannot actually fulfill all the trials that is required to be undergone by a particular to bring a vaccine to the market. So what you can do, that you can directly, if you get the people for human, if you can try on human beings, then you can easily come up with the conclusion that it has no side effect. So there was reporting that people were from various African countries were being, small African countries, in lieu of money, were being taken by the pharma companies for trial of the vaccines. So now actually it is strictly prohibited. You need to make the respondent understand about the purpose of the study and the side effect and the outcome of it. It has to get the clearance of the medical council of the country, and then only you can involve some human beings in clinical trials. I am just giving you an example, a famous example of a study that was conducted from 1932 to 1972, which is known as the Tuskegee study. It was Tuskegee is an institution in the United States of America. They conducted a study. A group of scientists was actually doing research to find out the medicine of syphilis. Syphilis is a sexually transmitted disease which had become like epidemic during 1930s or 40s, and particularly the many African countries and even India. There is a famous Bengali film on this particular disease. It is, the name of this film is Papi, and it was being the film was being made depending on the actual reality of ground reality of this disease in India also. So in African countries, so a group of researchers were doing the research. What did they do? They took a group of syphilis patients from a country of Africa, from few countries of Africa, a group of syphilis patients, and they divided them into two groups. One group was given medicine, everything. One group, and another group was kept untreated. They were doing this to see actually the effect of the treatment on the people, the vis-a-vis result of treatment on the people who had been medicated or given adequate treatment. But eventually they succeeded in inventing the the medicine that cures penicillin, and now it is not a very big deal to get cured of syphilis. By penicillin you can get cured of syphilis. But in the process of doing this study, 100 respondents died because they were kept untreated. Because these patients were kept untreated, 100 respondents had died. So it's a very notorious, known to be a very infamous study. So for the sake of doing research, or for the sake of, you should not become mad to make to create a gimmick in the academic world, or to make an invention and to short yourself into fame, not at the cost of the lives of the people, not at the cost of being hurting somebody. Because if you do so, then actually, eventually, that is, it may result in this manner, and you may not actually get the necessary information also, and it may have very negative effect on some people. That is, as I have cited an example just now, and you do not know about those people. If somebody does a study, or if somebody is doing a study, maybe some days later or sometime, or maybe somebody, because as I do not belong to this area, or somebody has done a study how this COVID vaccination trial had affected people who were being inducted into clinical trial to come up with the vaccine. So this is data, that is, the comfort of the subjects is a very significant aspect of doing research. And that's why you would find that nowadays doing research on animals randomly is being banned in any country. In any country, it has been banned to do research on animals. Earlier, all of you know that since our childhood, we have seen movies also that research is going on guinea pig, on science fictions, etc. So now it cannot be done in every institution. That's why you would find that there is an animal ethics committee, and your research design, your research proposal has to get through this animal ethics committee and they will check that whether it is poorly designed or not, whether it is, that is the profit and the loss uh, that would be that would accrue out of it, come out of it, that would be calculated, and then only your research would be approved. So doing research randomly on animals is banned today in most of the countries, because the comfort of the, whether it is animal or whether it is any man, or even if it is animal, the comfort of the subject is a priority, should be a priority of the researcher. Neither you should hurt the researcher physically, nor mentally, nor emotionally, or intellectually in any way. Then actually comes the question of social responsibility. Someone here was saying about the social responsibility. Yes, when actually the researcher, when you are doing the research, you are doing it out of a quest. You are doing it out of a quest to know something, to unveil the truth about a problem, to understand a problem, to understand a phenomenon, uh, to, to, to reaffirm or to negate a phenomenon. So, but when you are actually, and in the process you formulate, you do your literature review, you formulate your hypothesis, you select a methodology, you select your sample, you collect your data, you interpret, you put it in SPSS, in lot of things you do, then you interpret, and then you make report. So at the time you make the reporting, then it becomes important that whether you are taking note of the impact of your research in the society in particular and mankind in general. If for any reason you find that the outcomes of your study may lead to social unrest, disturb communal harmony, uh, disrupt the ecological balance, gender balance, or hinder the human evolution or the mental development of a child. If for any reason you find some such things can happen, if your research, from the report of your research, from the outcome of your study, then you are expected to revisit your outcome. You are expected to revisit your research and consult experts and fine tune the findings of your study to neutralize its negative impact. Similarly, the government is also expected to intervene so that, and take necessary steps so that the negative impact of the research is being neutralized. I am giving you an example, you will better understand it. Suppose all of you know about the prenatal diagnostic test. So it was being invented by a scientist, isn't it? A scientist in the process of doing his research on fertility or something has invented it. And then actually it is the market, because ultimately everything is market is driving everything. So what people have started doing, they have actually started using it, and in a manner that it started causing gender imbalance in many societies, including India. About the case of India, how many women have died, female have died uh, before taking birth. It's a huge data in India. And then prenatal diagnostic test is being banned in many countries, including India, in most countries. Why? Because the outcome of the research, so when a scientist has made the reporting, because a scientist ultimately, generally researcher remains more interested to actually come up with his findings, come up with what he has achieved, what he knew he has invented, or what new he or she can say. A researcher generally does not take note of these things, but it is a good researcher is expected to consult actually the important stakeholders, experts, and to see that whether in any way his research is going to disturb communal harmony, may cause social unrest or not, may bring in some serious impact on ecological balance, on human evolution, on the overall development of the society or not. Suppose AI, artificial intelligence, how it has been invented, isn't it? So in the process of the huge development of science and technology that is taking place right now today, this artificial intelligence has been invented. And so far, my experience as a researcher, as a teacher is this, that so far it is being very badly misused. So it is important that all important stakeholders, including the government, come up with some stringent mechanism to restrict the use of artificial intelligence, so that it does not retard the mental development of the child. Because if a child starts asking chat gpt, that is what is where is India located, tell something about India's boundary, etc., then actually the child is losing his or capability of thinking, reading, and most importantly critical thinking. So this is why it is always important, that is, you come up, tomorrow the age will be reversed. You come up, but this reversal of age, something invented which will reverse the age by 10 years, how it will affect the entire society, how it will affect the human evolution, everything needs to be taken care of, while actually, that is, the reporting is being made. But now actually everything is market driven. So the market is more powerful than anything else. This is another aspect that is required to be social responsibility of the researcher. And the researcher in his social responsibility has to be very unbiased also. Unbiased in the sense that you should not have any bias, to any kind of bias towards your respondents. Suppose you have gone to a village to collect data. If you think that these ladies, what information they will provide, these unpad ladies, wo kya bolenge, then actually you are wrong. You are actually underestimating them. Many things they know better than you, from their experience, because they have learned something by virtue of their experience. But so you should not have a socially responsible person generally does not make any distinction on the basis of these things. I am just referring to another important study. It was conducted in the Iowa University of the United States in 1932, 34, like this. That is, it is called Monster Study, where a group of scientists were actually trying to invent the mechanism for speech therapy of the stammering children, those children who stammer. And what did they do? They have actually taken two group of people, two group of adolescent children, one group from the orphanage and the other group from the well-to-do families, from schools, etc., by taking the permission of their guardian. So guardian thought that they are stammering children, if for any reason they can improve. So guardian have ensured that there will not be any difficulty or further harm cost to these children. Eventually, what did they do? They were doing two kind of treatment they were giving to these children to contrast their response. One group of people was given a very positive response, positive treatment. They were being appreciated. They were being, even if for attempting to pronounce a word, they were being appreciated. They were being given prizes. They were being given claps, etc. And another group of people, adolescent children who were being taken from orphanage, they were being given negative treatment. They were being punished, they were being scolded, they were being told that you are worth of nothing, that's why you are failing to pronounce. They were doing it very objectively. They were doing it without any bias in otherwise in mind. They were actually trying to contrast the response of the speech therapy, this positive therapy, and the negative therapy on the children, that who try to overcome early their speech problem. Eventually, they could come up with a very scientific speech therapy treatment for the stammering children, but those children who were being taken from orphanage, out of them, some children could never recover because they were in very tender age. So the kind of punishment, the kind of demotivation, the kind of scolding that they received at a very tender age of this their life, that has actually demoralized them in such a manner that they could never overcome their speech problem. So it is why was the researcher, why did the researcher choose the people from the orphanage to give this negative therapy? Because they are coming from orphanage. There is no one to make them accountable for what is being done to them. So some such thing is not expected to be done by the researcher. So that is why these are actually, this comes, so a researcher is required to be socially responsible also. That microchip लगा दिया, इलोन मस्क ने तो माइक्रोचिप भी लगा दिया किसी के दिमाग में, लेकिन अब वो माइक्रोचिप का क्या होगा, इसका इम्पैक्ट क्या होगा? वो जो मेटावर्स जिन्होंने इन्वेंट किया, उन लोग मतलब आप क्या करेंगे? वो मेटावर्स की लंदन की कोर्ट में एक लड़की ने केस फाइल किया, शी गॉट रेप्ड इन द साइबर वर्ल्ड. तो इसका जो ट्रॉमा हुआ, ये ट्रॉमा तो जैसे सच में अगर इसका रेप होती तो जैसा होता ऐसा ही हुआ. तो ये जो मेटावर्स का इन्वेंशन हुआ, ये मेटावर्स जब घर घर में आ जाएगा, अभी आ गया, वो जो मतलब वो जो होता है ना, वो जो वीडियो गेम एक्सेट्रा, इट एक्चुअली टेक्स द चिल्ड्रन, मेक द चिल्ड्रन पार्टिसिपेंट इन द गेम. तो ये सोचता ही नहीं कि ये मतलब इसका हिस्सा नहीं है. So this is why that is social responsibility is also an important aspect that researcher has to keep in mind and has to remain accountable to. And then actually comes, that is another thing is this, that is the research outcome should not also be used for product promotion. I am not very sure about that particular aspect, but like in television advertisement, you will often see that people are saying that for due to such and such things found in research, this Lysol is much better than some other products. So you can always advertise Lysol, but you need not have to say the outcome of you need not have to promote Lysol by actually referring to the outcome of the research. So this is also an unethical practice. And then comes the conflict of interest. You must have often heard the conflict of interest. मेरा time कितना है, खत्म हुआ क्या?
No, madam.
Vikash ji?
No, madam. You can speak, ma'am. No, madam.
Achha, I will finish shortly.
Yes, ma'am.
So conflict of interest can be of two kinds. That is, if for any reason your personal, anything personal or financial matters or anything make you compromise the outcome of the study, or make you compromise your objectivity in research, then it is called conflict of interest. Very shortly, I am trying to make you understand that conflict of interest can be of two types. It can be individual also. Suppose you have a strong belief in a theory, and you want to validate a pet theory, or you have a very strong conviction about a particular concept and you want to prove it. Suppose a hardcore Marxist, and just for the sake of example, I'm telling, a very hardcore Marxist may actually do his literature review may select his respondents, may formulate his hypothesis, and may collect data in such a manner so that eventually it negates the phenomenal success of capitalism. Do you get me? Suppose I am a Modi hater. I do not like Narendra Modi. Now I can write a paper on actist policy in a very calculated manner, taking data in such a manner and and interpreting the data in such a manner so that it eventually shows that actist policy is still greater a failure than lookist policy. Do you get me? So here actually my individual bias is making me compromise the outcome of the study, making me compromise my objectivity. So this is also a conflict of interest. Conflict of interest between the researcher and his area of research. Another is a very much greater conflict of interest. Suppose in India, we do not understand it much, and particularly we social science researchers do not understand it much. Now, although we understand it, when we are doing research on some sensitive issues, I could have given you some personal examples also, but I am not sharing it right now. That is, suppose in Western countries, there is a lot of collaboration between the industry and the academia. Their university, etc., is not being funded by the state as it is in our country. So there remains compulsion on each researcher to actually generate fund. So how can you generate fund when you will have a viable research topic at your hand and a viable research design, which is very lucrative in nature and which can give a lot of profit to various business houses, etc. Then only they will finance heavily your research, isn't it? So if I have a research proposal at hand, which will actually make you reduce your weight without doing any exercise, without doing any exercise, diet control, and also there will not be any side effect, then there will be a lot of pharma companies who will immediately become ready to finance me, isn't it? And if my research design has a lot of potential to come up with some substantial outcome, then many people will become ready to finance me. But eventually, those who are financing, they will try to control the outcome of my study also. Do you get me? Suppose there is going on a lot of researches in cancer. So one who acquires cancer, he has to actually afford, that is lakhs and lakhs of rupees for his treatment. Even a middle class person has to afford how much, 50 lakhs or so, maybe in 7-8 years of time. So no pharma company would like to see the invention of a very affordable medicine for cancer. So if some research is going on, then these funding agencies, for their market profit, would try to control the outcome of the research. So they will try to control the researcher not to share the information to the extent the researcher wants. And even the institution may. Suppose if I come up with some such findings which will prove something very derogatory, suppose about Hindu ideology or something, then maybe my institution will not allow me to come up with the findings. Do you get it? So I am saying this is another conflict of interest. Here the conflict of interest between what the researcher wants and what the business houses want, or what the institute wants. Am I clear? So this is what is called the conflict of interest. And then actually the legality is this: a researcher has to have knowledge about the law of the country. You cannot say that is after killing an animal, you cannot say I don't know that the killing of this animal is banned in India. So you are, if you are doing research sincerely and if you are doing more profoundly on some subject matter on which there is a lot of legal concern, then you are expected to be aware of the legalities, the nitty-gritties of the legal matters that is associated with the with that particular research. And then collaboration. Nowadays actually a lot of research is actually done by collaboration, because due to the development of science and technology, and as most subjects, disciplines have become interdisciplinary in nature, a lot of collaboration. When actually you start doing a research in a particular area, after some time you would find that a lot of people are collaborating with you on this particular subject matter. So you need to actually, what you need to do, that you need to understand. So you need to adhere to the guidelines, respect the guidelines of collaboration, whether with regard to funding, whether with regard to the time frame. Suppose you are collaborating, you are writing a paper with a teacher of an American university. That man is supposed to write about the literature review methodology and introduction, and you are supposed to collect data and findings and report about findings. So he has done his work and then you do not do anything. Then actually nobody would collaborate with you in future. And also with regard to the sharing of intellectual credit. So a lot of people, suppose our researchers also help us, our scholars also help us. Many people actually publish without being giving credit to the scholar. And sometimes the scholars, the supervisor does not contribute anything, but the scholars have to include their name. So this is also something is not quite ethical. So this is what is so the intellectual credit needs to be distributed as the way it should be. So these are certain things that you need to adhere to be a good researcher. Thank you. I'm finishing here.
ओके, थैंक यू सो मच मैडम। एक्चुअली जब हम मैम को सुन रहे थे तो मन नहीं कर रहा था कि मैम से कहें कि बंद करें।
ओ, मुझे बंद कर देना चाहिए था, इसका मतलब
नो
पहले
मैम,
कितने बजे तक थे?
नो मैम, बिकॉज भी हम सभी लोग बड़े इंटरेस्ट के साथ सुन रहे थे।
हाँ,
सो
सच बोल रहे हैं ना आप?
फॉर दी I want to give the information to the all scholars.
Thank you. Somebody has
Professor
written it is
Joyati ma'am
Rupendra Singh.
has recently published a very wonderful research paper in the Economic Political Weekly. The title of the research paper is on the student movement in Barak Valley, the role of the Aksha in 1983 to 1994. So if anybody want to read this research paper, so madam has already sent me the PDF of this paper. So if anybody have the need, if anybody want to read this paper, so you can send me message, so I will send to you, to all of you. So thank you. So again I want to invite to Subhangi madam for the question
Yes.
answer session.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a wonderful lecture. Told us importance of ethics in research with its principles such as purpose of research, accountability, objectivity, integrity, data protection, legality, and so many things related to research ethics. So it's time to questions. If anyone has query, so you can ask.
Okay then.
Yes, yes,
Good evening, ma'am. This is
Oh yeah,
Ashwini Kumar
yeah,
from.
yeah.
Uh,
Good evening.
Actually, there is no question. All questions are already clear because you have uh, encompass so many aspects that हम लोगों को जो नहीं पता था, madam. As you mentioned that some of the teachers or the guide they forced to researchers to put their name कि हाँ हमारा भी नाम डालो और so this is I got to know that this is also like unethical. I think we should not do.
अगर
Thank you, ma'am.
कंट्रीब्यूट
And
करना
we will.
ऐसे देखिए पूरा अनएथिकल नहीं है अगर कोई आपका जो गाइड है वो तो आपका रिसर्च में अगर कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं तो उनका नाम आना चाहिए
yes, yes, ma'am.
अगर नहीं कर
Of
रहे
course, ma'am.
हैं and then actually somebody is insisting then actually it is not obviously it is not quite ethical
Yes, yes, ma'am.
but if one is
Yes, ma'am.
contributing
Actually,
then
one. Yes, there's
contribution can
ma'am.
be in the
There.
form of making you understand also, making you a good researcher also. So when actually, suppose I am sitting with my research scholars, and when I actually make them understand how to become, because there is no shortcut to success. So how to become a good scholar, how to become, you cannot become a cricketer suddenly by going to the field with a bat at your hand. So to be a good researcher, you should have to evolve the practice of reading and writing, which is in our childhood it was used to be taught three arts: reading, writing, and arithmetic. So if you have this, because these three arts, when you are practicing or you have practiced for a prolonged period of time, if fundamentally you are good, then it is okay since your childhood. If you are good and you are fundamentally strong, but even not, then also you can acquire these qualities. But it is this is also the way by which I am contributing. But I never ask any of my scholar to give my name.
Okay, okay. Thank you. So, if anybody have any question, anybody want to ask?
Saifullah Sardar, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. If anybody want to ask, so you can ask your question. Now session is open.
I think there is no
Oh, okay,
question.
okay. Because आज का लेक्चर मैडम ने ऐसा किया है ना कि क्वेश्चन
Yes.
डाउट किसी के पास है ही नहीं है. हम लोगों ने एक्चुअली मैं तो रियली मैडम रियली
He is concluding it very diplomatically.
नो 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 मैम नो मैम एक्चुअली ऐसा नहीं है मैम. हम लोग तो इस पे
No, no.
लेक्चर कराते
Jukendra.
ही हैं और सबको
Thanks, ma'am.
सुनते हैं
Thank you, Jukendra.
और यस 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 ओके सो
Ayush.
यस यस नंदिनी जी नंदिनी द्विवेदी वांट टू आस्क समथिंग.
Yes, ma'am.
हेलो
यस
Yes, Nandini.
ऑडिबल आई एम ऑडिबल
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
मैं हिंदी में बोलना चाहूंगी
जी जी मैम जी
कि
मैम.
जैसे हमारा कोई हम रिपोर्ट बनाते हैं उसको प्लेगियरिज्म चेक करवाते हैं तो एक बार चेक हो गया सपोज 8% आया या 10% आया फिर उसमें हमने करेक्शन किया और दूसरी बार चेक किया तो 6% आया तो अभी भी वो प्लेगियरिज्म है तो और इसको रिड्यूस करने के लिए दिया जाता है तो हम थर्ड टाइम या फोर्थ टाइम करवाते हैं तो फिर वो वैलिड नहीं है ऐसा है तो 2 टाइम्स ही वैलिड है.
तो प्लेगरिज्म जो बार बार कराना चेक कराना
सपोज मैं रिसर्च स्कॉलर हूँ मैंने मेरी थीसिस रेडी किया फर्स्ट टाइम मैंने यूनिवर्सिटी में सबमिट करने से पहले प्लेगरिज्म चेक करवाया रिपोर्ट में तो समझो 10% आया उसको मुझे कम मैंने दी उसको ठीक करके उसको फिर से चेक करने के लिए दिया तो प्लेगरिज्म कम हो गया और 6% आया. अभी 2 बार जब मेरा प्लेगरिज्म चेक हुआ तो अभी थर्ड टाइम मैं दे सकती हूँ या थर्ड टाइम वो एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेंगे.
नहीं थर्ड टाइम आप
कितनी बार
मतलब क्या होता है या
कितनी बार हम चेक करवा सकते हैं.
हाँ हाँ एक्चुअली प्लेगरिज्म जो होना आज मतलब प्लेगरिज्म जो होता है ये मतलब क्या होता है कि मशीन ने जब चेक करता है तो मशीन कभी कभी बहुत सारी चीजें जो मतलब आपने ड्यू क्रेडिट भी दिया हो वो भी ले लेता है। तो आपका प्लेगरिज्म सॉफ्टवेयर कैसा है? अगर ऐसा हो रहा है कि इट इज नॉट एक्चुअली प्लेगरिज्म, you have given a machine, because as it is there in the cyber world, the machine is catching it. Because suppose there is this Turnitin, it used to catch the Supreme Court. If you write Supreme Court, because Supreme Court somewhere it is there in the, if you write Parliament, it even Joyati Bhattacharya, that also it marks as plagiarism. Now, what kind of plagiarism? If it is pure plagiarism, that is, you are really being doing some mischief without being giving credit to someone, then actually if twice your thesis is rejected, third time it cannot go for until and unless it is being revised properly. It should not go for plagiarism check. And that's why actually institutions now give this plagiarism ID, etc., to the supervisor himself or herself. So because nowadays, because if you are doing, instead of doing your research, if you are copying and pasting, then so it is a problem which will keep on haunting you for some time. And if you are really doing a research, then you will not write somebody's things. You will write only to substantiate what you want to say. And here you will get due credit also. So if twice it is rejected, then it is actually...
Yeah, madam, I understand. But just हमने कोई वेबसाइट से पूछ लिया तो वेबसाइट का उसमें लिंक हमने वहाँ पे कॉपी किया है, तो मुझे किसी ने बताया कि वो लिंक अगर वहाँ कॉपी किया है तो वो प्लेगरिज्म चेक मशीन जब करता है तो ये लिंक देख के वो कहता है कि ये आपने कॉपी किया हुआ है, तो इसलिए इसको निकाल दीजिए। तो ऐसे 2-3 बार करने से हम थीसिस को 2 बार या 3 बार ही कर सकते हैं, ऐसा कुछ
नहीं, आप बार-बार कर सकते हैं। प्लेगरिज्म सॉफ्टवेयर इज इफ इट इज एट योर कंट्रोल, यू कैन चेक इट अगेन एंड अगेन।
ओके, वो अपने इंस्टीट्यूट में ही वो लोग चेक करके देते हैं ना?
Yes.
No issues.
Okay, madam.
So, if anybody have any question, we will be take only one question. Otherwise, we will be in the session. So, again, I want to invite to Subhangi ji.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to invite Professor Pankaj Tiwari sir from Indira Gandhi National Tribal University for giving presidential address. Professor Pankaj sir. Yes.
धन्यवाद मैम। सर्वप्रथम मैं विलम्ब से जुड़ा हूँ, विकास जी ने मुझे बाद में ही जोड़ा, लेकिन मैंने भट्टाचार्य मैम को सुना, बहुत ही सारगर्भित व्याख्यान रहा। इस सोशल मीडिया के गूगल मंच से सभी रिसर्चर और भट्टाचार्य मैम को मैं सर्वप्रथम प्रणाम करता हूँ। आपने हमारे रिसर्चर को बहुत ही अपने सारगर्भित व्याख्यान के माध्यम से रिसर्च एथिक्स पर जो मार्गदर्शन किया, वो निस्संदेह आने वाली जो पीढ़ी है, जो रिसर्चर है, जिसमें हमारे विकास जी भी हैं, शुभांगी जी हैं, अश्वनी जी हैं, जो लोग भी जुड़े हुए हैं, उनके लिए बहुत ही लाभप्रद होगा। आपने रिसर्च मैथोलॉजी पर बात की, आपने रिसर्च में नैतिकता की बात की, आपने रिसर्च मैथोलॉजी के अंतर्गत डेटा कलेक्शन कैसे किया जाएगा, हाइपोथेसिस, खास तौर पर मैंने मैम आपको पूरा नहीं सुन पाया था क्योंकि आज हम लोग को ये पोर्टल पर आज लोड करना है, सामर्थ्य पोर्टल पे, तो दिमाग उधर था, लेकिन मैंने आपको थोड़ा देर ही सुना, लेकिन बहुत ही सारगर्भित आपका था। आपने जो सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी की बात की, वो रिसर्च के लिए बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण था। आपने इकोलॉजिकल बैलेंस की बात की, वो भी आजकल के जो हमारे जो नई शिक्षा व्यवस्था में शोध प्रणाली की गुणवत्ता की बात की जा रही है, इसके लिए आपने विभिन्न पहलुओं पर डेटा कलेक्शन की बात की, रिसर्च के लिए कैसे क्या होगा, हाइपोथेसिस, तो मैम बहुत ही अच्छा रहा और निसंदेह हमारे शोधार्थियों के लिए, जो शोध कर रहे हैं या जो नहीं शोध कर रहे हैं, हम लोग के लिए भी लाभदायक रहा है। ठीक है, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मैम।
धन्यवाद। ओके देन, बाय बाय। थैंक यू दीपना एंड टोनी, थैंक यू।
ओके मैम।
थैंक यू दीपना।
ठीक है, बहुत नहीं दे पाए आप लोगों के लिए क्योंकि दिमाग मेरा थोड़ा कहीं और जगह है बार बार, इसलिए। भट्टाचार्य मैम, बहुत अच्छा लगा, मैं आपको पूरा प्रणाम करता हूँ और हमारे रिसर्च ऐसे ही मार्गदर्शन करते रहिए। धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू सर। ओके देन, बाय बाय।
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, now come we can end the session with your permission.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Okay, ma'am. Pranam, ma'am. Pranam.